So we've got two different perspectives. So we've got the shooting that took place in Tottenham, and obviously you've got a perspective that is opportunity. What does everybody think about that? Did it have something to connection to do with the incident in Tottenham, or was it just a thing where everyone was just running around? It's seen the Louis Vuitton shop, bags that cost probably £400–500 and thought, you know what, we want a bag. So it was just an opportunity to take a bag. Is that the case? Or was it the case of that people were fighting the injustice that took place in Tottenham?
I think that it's a bit of both. Initially, the first people that come in was writing and everything, obviously in Tottenham, like I got Benjamin in Tottenham, man said they never rioted, they protested. Then people got out of order and said, forget this, they're not acting right, obviously. Beer protests have gone on. A man said to me, he's been on marches, etc, etc. And people ain't had nothing. I got a Benjamin, his brother died in jail, the man's been on marches, nothing happened. Yeah. So he said, sir, man said, forget this, let's just go and cause carnage. He said, first set of man that was out there writing and talking about people that were writing, he said, we're just causing havoc.
I've been active from I was 14-year-old. I know you from is a baby Craig, so you can, I'm saying that, so you can discipline it. That's it. I don't think I must go nobody that knows that. Yeah, nappies and all these people. Yeah. Well, I just like to say just to young people here, I've been active when I'm 14-year-old. My parents are Garveyites, and I came to this country in 1959. So I know Britain like the back of my hand. I know the people here. I know about institutional racism. I know how the government operate towards whether you're young, black or white or Asian. I know their policies towards you is a policy which they dominate the society. This is a very dysfunctional society. It pretends and talks about democracy, but it doesn't have a democracy program. The Deputy Prime Minister, he's committed crime, and yet he can come out and say young black youths and Asian youths and so have committed mindless violence and mugging and downright thief and criminal. What do you have to do sometimes? I'm a dinosaur to the computer, but when I do get on it, you go and look it up about Clegg himself. He is an arsonist. Boris, right? He used to just get drunk him and Cameron and broke up people's restaurants in London as students. Now these guys can call you criminals and can call you anything, but they forgot what they were doing in their youth. There are 18 millionaires in this parliament. Most of the 18 millionaires runs the country. You as young people, if you don't understand how the economy of this country runs, how they run the political system, right, the social system, the culture and how they dominate, they will take away parents' rights and then tell the parents, call your children in with the uprising. You can't smack your children, the children can divorce you, you can do it. More than young people on the street, why they behave the way they behave today, is because they were given this right, they can disrespect the very mother who gave them birth. Right? It's an abomination to the Creator. When you can disrespect your own mother, curse your mother, swear at your mother. So this is bound to happen, and more uprising will come, because this government will spend 10 billion a week on a war in Libya, and it can't even protect its own people. 1,000 odd white men have died young men have died in police custody in this country. 1,000 odd, nearly 1,600. And 540 black men, young men, have died in police custody. Have you ever heard of a police charge for murder? That shows you there is no democracy. It's a con game, democracy. They do not like to tell the truth. How many of you here as young people have been kicked out of school? At some form or the other. The exclusion rate is over 40% in this Burnham alone. Excluded from school. They give the young people the sense that the big society, all the bling bling, all the, the celeb, with all the fast cars and the jewelry, they give you this false sense of hope that you're going to make it as a superstar or whatever. And that's where the problem is. Because when you then have to pay a higher tuition fee to go to university, who's going to be in debt for 50,000 by the time you finish university? It shows that you're going to fight in Afghanistan, you fight in Iraq, you fight everywhere. And you can't look after old people who suffer from hypothermia every winter and die, and they contribute to the society. So you have to be wise enough to understand how the economy works in this country, how they disregard young people and don't have a care only about the ruling elite. None of their children are going to suffer. None of their children, because they'll be able to pay that tuition fee. An MP gets 65,000 a year, yet they thief. Right? So when you hear a man spend £150 to put in a light bulb, well, man can get a chair and put in the light bulb himself. Then they have these double housing. So when you hear a parliamentary expense, and then you talk of corruption in Africa, you have to look at the corruption here. They're ripping off you. You work, you pay tax, and the politicians get wages, and they're still ripping you off. They get massive perks. They travel everywhere at the taxpayers' expense. And then they will have the audacity to turn around and say, we're criminal. But I also want you to make a mistake before I go. Just look at this. That killing of the brother in London, the way the police shoot him. If you listen to the police version of it, there's about 4 different versions. If you look at any of the other killings, like recent, Burrell Kingsley, and when you look at Mikey Power, and you could go to a long list of people in Birmingham, I cannot give you an explanation. Mikey Powell was strangled by police. And none of those police are charged. In fact, they're all back at work now. First, they was all suffering from depression. Now they're back at work. So you have to look at those things. Look at the riot. When Anson Young was killed in this community, did you see any royal come from the royal family and give condolence to those families? Did you see the Prime Minister come up here? Did you see the Prime Minister go anywhere with the black communities? Because they don't have no respect for the African community. They have respect for the Asian community because they're organized. And they're organized in a greater number because they have the number. And I've been working with the Indian community for a long time. 1968, they had a conference in Leicester, and they said they'll take every corner shop, every supermarket, every main road, get in the council, because they're going to teach Britain a lesson for colonizing India. They've done it. I talk to them. I don't like hearing black people that, oh, what the Indian community do. Get up off your butt and do something. Go and support your own community shops. You can't be talking about the Indian community. They made a plan. They've achieved it. They said no bird control. And they meant it. They're going to control areas. They did it. And I could go find Uptown now, he could stand right beside me. And he says, when we first went to the conference in Leicester, they said, didn't want no black people in there. And it was Joshi and Uptown and all of them said, no, let them come in because they always fight the National Front and the fascist force. Let them in the meeting. And we came in the meeting, and that's how we learned what the program was about. What I'm saying to you, you have to be real as young people. Do not let the authorities do what they do. If you see they calling you scums and criminals and some idiots and BR and WM talking rubbish about these mindless criminals, you need to write letters to the Prime Minister to remind them that there are criminals in the Parliament who have robbed some who've gone to jail for 3 weeks. One guy just take a bottle of water and he gets 6 months. A politician get 3 weeks. Come on. Point out the contradiction. You use your brains. You fight them back on the government website. You got all the computer. You send it back to them and say, well, listen, you haven't set a moral standard. You do not have a moral high ground because you do not produce a moral ground for our lead for us. Right? Is it right for only the state to discipline a child and the parents who give birth cannot discipline a child? Not even smack the child when the child is doing something rude. So isn't that a contradiction in the society? And a big contradiction. So thank you for listening. Asante sana. I'm out of here. I gotta run. Sorry, I gotta run.
Just another point feeding off what Ty said. I spoke to a couple of youths from Nottingham and Manchester as well. And they says the reason why it kicked off down there is because London did it. So because London did it and then Birmingham did it shortly after, they thought, well, why can't we do it kind of thing? So they did see it as a big opportunity.
I think that what you said, both said about the rioting and even its reference as rioting. I think it was encouraged by the media to take that step further, to go on and people, you know, rioting in shops, because initially it was protesting, it was that people didn't have answers, it was that people were angry, and then I think the media just encouraged it to turn into havoc, because, you know, as people were seizing the opportunities, the poor people, the people that saw it as, you know, I can take this, I can sell that, people that just wanted to be involved because other cities were involved. I think that the media played on it, and I think that, you know, referring to people as mindless criminals and so on and so forth, I think that just made people, you know, encouraged to do it. I don't think there was any regard for people that were actually there protesting initially. I think they just let that go slide because they didn't have answers, and then they tried to just let the rioting take over because they didn't have no answers for nobody.
In terms of like London, what I saw that they didn't really report, obviously what you said about them being outside the police station, didn't get no answers, and then afterwards the police didn't actually come out at all, and then afterwards there's footage of a young girl who's arguing with a police officer, and then he beats her or something, and like that's why a lot of people that I know have said that it's kicked off with them fighting against the police. In Birmingham, what I did see, apart from everywhere else, was that they set a police station on fire because it was against the police, but nowhere else did that.
They did it in Nottingham. Nottingham police as well. Even Liverpool, and that was white people set the police station on fire. So, that's where they should have, sorry for interjecting, but that's the first thing they should have done. No disrespect, but obviously the argument was against the police.
Yeah.
So the police station should have been burnt down. Like, I'm not condoning what was done, but that's the argument. The argument wasn't against JD Sports, Foot Locker or whatever. It was against the police. So when man was fighting the police, good on ya. Yeah, because they shot a man. You have to realise these SO19 people are trigger happy. They don't get to shoot regular, right? Notice here, Raumo had a gun to his head for 4 hours and he shot a policeman in his face, right? And shot him X amount of people. But no one didn't do nothing. They had stun guns for him. But a man was sitting in a taxi, no gun, and got blasted.
Coming off the back of what you were saying, I was talking to a bigger man in the community last week when it was all kicking off, and he kind of put it like this. He goes, "Oh, Jay, it's like when you're in the cinema, yeah, somebody behind you rustling their crisp packet and whatnot. Takes you about 4 or 5 minutes before you get upset really and you move on it and say, yo blood, what are you doing?" You know what I'm saying? And what happened is, there was a crisp packet moment in Birmingham 5 years ago. You know what I mean? It wasn't 4 or 5 minutes, it took 4 or 5 years. There's been a lot of things bubbling for 5 years. And in every city, because I work in a lot of cities, I travel a lot and I work in a lot of pupil referral units and youth offending teams. And every city I go to, there's a crisp packet moment.
This is African Caribbean people coming out and celebrating their culture and showing the rest of the city what it's all about. And there should have been thousands of people from Birmingham there, but there weren't, you know, and there wasn't a big police presence. In fact, I was asking the police, where's the carnival starting, and they didn't even know, you know, so...
Is it quick
well, mine's just like a 2-second thing. All I was going to say is that people are saying about the police presence in the carnival, but from what I seen when I was looking, I seen a lot of, I can tell undercover police. So even though you might not see them wearing the yellow and whatnot, there was actually a lot more police in there plain clothes, because you can see them with the little headphones and whatnot, you get what I mean? So you might not have seen them there, but sometimes at the same time they're there, but they're not just making it present like that, you get what I mean? So,
which police officer are you referring to who said that we were mindless folks? The chief of West Midlands Police, Chris Sims. Well, let's paint a picture. Let's go back in time a little bit. Because when David Cameron came in, he said he's going to cut, I can't remember the number, but something like 30,000 or some cut. There was going to be police cuts. Now imagine, Craig, just for the sake of this, you're Cameron, Russell, you're Nick Clegg, I'm Chris Sims, you are my force, you're like my crew, on road. You go into a meeting with Russell and then you say, yeah man, we're going to cut Jay and his man, them, you know. I'm going to be screwed because you never invited me to that meeting. 2 years you come out and you go, yo, Jay, there what now? In a few months' time, rare job cuts. What's my argument going to be? I'm either going to be like, I'm cool, and not care about you lot, but because I do kind of care in a weird way, I'm like, yo, what are you talking about, man? Yo, you see when you beat us, watch what happens. So I start to tell my man them, stand down. Now, various things happened, Mark Duggan. Police were standing down in the looting in London. Sunday, before we kicked off, in the park, something did happen, because one of my work colleagues was there with a group of people. She saw a standoff between some slash youths and some top hands workmen. Now, she was caught in the middle of a kind of crossfire situation with her she had some youths with learning difficulties and whatnot, and she couldn't do nothing. She was praying for her life, but she said she looked over there, and those bare feds, but they stood back. So the order to stand back was before we even started rioting on the Monday. The order to stand back was from before. So there was stand back policing in Carnival. There was stand back policing when Maplin's got lit down in town.
But now that this is happening, it's going to be like a situation where someone's just going to be like sneakily following you around the shop to make sure you don't take nothing. And that's going to kind of pump me off here because I kind of don't like being followed around.
Some of the parents that like say have kids around my age probably going to be scared to leave their kids at home on their own, say to get a night shift. So if they obviously quit their shift, that means there's money in their pocket to obviously provide for you, say brothers and sisters, etc. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I feel like now, the youth of today, I mean, black and Asian, are going to be like